What's up, y'all? Mess around on Instagram, forgive me there. But yeah, I'm going live to discuss this entire situation with the CEO killer. Well, as far as we know right now, this dude it's alleged that he's the killer. But it's looking pretty good that this has got the guy. It's looking pretty good that I started to say Metro, the NYPD's got their guy. And so we're going to talk about it. I'm going to share an article with you from the Daily Mail, going over a little bit of details. And then I'm going to show you a few minute video from NYPD giving a briefing, adding some details that we may not get in the Daily Mail article. And then if we have some time, we'll wrap it up with some of his people have been doing a lot of investigation on this guy regarding a lot of his tweets and stuff like that. And tweets, his Goodreads book list, pretty interesting stuff. And we'll wrap it up with maybe if you guys have some good responses or reactions in the chat, we'll talk about it there. But let's just jump right in, forget all this talk here. Let me know if you have any issue seeing this article here as I shrink my head down, and I'll read some of the details here. How suspected CEO shooter Luigi Mangione is his name, was caught at Altoona McDonald's. That's where he worked, at a McDonald's, believe it or not. All right. The man detained by police in Pennsylvania in connection with the shock slaying of UnitedHealthCare CEO Brian Thompson has been identified as Luigi Mangione. Mangione, 26, is an anti-capitalist Ivy League graduate. Now, why am I not surprised or shocked when I'm hearing that he's an Ivy League graduate? Why is that not surprising to me? I would say primarily because the academic system, especially the colleges around, have just become indoctrination centers. They're truly creating insane people. I truly believe that. I know oftentimes we hear that the American dream is to, get married, have a kid, have kids, have a family, get your white picket fence, and send your kids off to college. But honestly, the way things are going right now, I literally believe that that's insane to do, because a lot of these universities have turned into clear indoctrination centers. Clearly, they're teaching our kids to hate our country. They're teaching our kids to hate God and to adopt some of the most insane ideas we've ever heard before. The most insane ideas. That's where all this woke DEI, radical LGBT movement, this rampant push with the transgender movement, that's where it's coming from. These ideas aren't brand new. They've been floating around in academia for decades. But then over the more recent years, as our country grows increasingly secular, as the world seems to be growing increasingly secular, especially the West, these ideas are being adopted by people, and it is literally destroying our country. And I'm thankful that there seems to be some sort of pushback as of late. But let's continue on with the article. He was taken into custody. Right here we are. He was taken into custody after a McDonald's employee in Altoona, around 100 miles east of Pittsburgh, believed they recognized him as the gunman. Hope I didn't click on nothing. He reportedly had a 3D printed ghost gun similar to the one he used in the Wednesday morning murder, along with a gun silencer, a manifesto, and 4 fake IDs when he was arrested by cops. So I don't know if that means he was planning on going somewhere, having 4 fake IDs. Or he was just using these fake IDs to just try to game the system. So if he was ever stopped, he'd pull out one of these fake IDs and try to fool the police. I've had people try that on me on multiple occasions. Mangione has been arrested on firearms charges as of Monday afternoon. He has not been charged with Thompson's murder. All right, let's continue on. Breaking lines from Mangione's warped manifesto revealed. So we're going to get into some of the details of the manifesto he had. Some details from Luigi's manifesto, which was found on him when he was arrested. Now, first, we can go back and forth with how foolish this guy was when you think about it. You commit all these crimes, you murder somebody in the wee mornings in New York, and you honestly think you're going to get away with it. Now, he tried to cover his tracks to a degree, but not really. I mean, honestly, in the 21st century, 2024, you're literally going to think, you literally think that covering your face and covering your head and riding a public bike and you're not going to be captured on video somewhere. He went into the Starbucks, had his face out. That's what did him in. He orders a coffee cup with his bare hands, fingerprints. And of course, as you move along, cameras throughout the city are going to figure out who you are. I didn't think he would make it to the weekend, honestly. He managed to make it to Monday before he got caught, but I honestly didn't think he would make it through the weekend. But I knew it was just a matter of time before they caught this dude. No question in my mind. The document would span 2 pages, and that's another odd thing. Typically, these people who have these manifestos have like 50 pages, 300-page manifestos. Quote, "These parasites had it coming." And then he also, quote, "I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done." I'm really interested in finding out more details. I want to know, did he have direct ties to anybody? Was one of his family members impacted by poor health care? Let's continue. The document was 2 pages long and is currently being investigated by law enforcement. Luigi Mangione was named as a person of interest in the fatal shooting of Brian Thompson, police confirmed on Monday. The 26-year-old suspect is originally from Towson, I'm not sure, Towson, Maryland, and is an anti-capitalist former Ivy League student who is valedictorian at his high school. So the guy's got some smarts to some degree anyway. Not much common sense, but he's got some smarts. The man has ties to San Francisco and used to live in Honolulu, Hawaii. 2 very progressive locations. So who knows if he had any indoctrination there. Cops confirmed he has also been charged in connection with the death of Thompson. Okay, so they charged him with some. At first they said it was just gun charges, but these are being updated as time goes on. He was arrested on firearms charges on Monday after okay, we read that already. Let me see here. Thompson was gunned down in Midtown Manhattan last week ahead of a work conference. He was CEO of UnitedHealthCare, one of the largest medical insurers in the country. Mangione, 26, does not have a criminal history, and police said his name was not on the radar until the arrest in Pennsylvania today. And I also mentioned that he was found with a gun, silencer, and manifesto, which outlined his disdain for the healthcare system. He was arrested wearing clothes that matched the description of the suspect. Oh, my goodness. So was he literally wearing the clothing that he murdered old boy in? Wow. Like, that's just really dumb. Part of me thinks he wanted to get caught. Mangione attended the coveted University of Pennsylvania, where he gained a degree in engineering in 2020. So again, he's not a dumb dude as far as book smarts. Before he graduated as valedictorian from the Gilman School in Baltimore, where tuition cost nearly $40,000 a year. So it was really weird. There he is right there. So what's really weird is that I heard that he worked at the McDonald's. I don't know if that's just a passing rumor. All right, let's see here. The suspect, 26, was a quote unquote scholar. The suspect in the shooting of CEO Brian Thompson proudly showed off his education on his LinkedIn page. Mangione showed he had 2 degrees from the University of Pennsylvania and that he graduated from his high school with the highest cumulative 4-year GPA. Very, like I said, bright dude. University of Pennsylvania, Master's in Science in Engineering, Bachelor's of Science in Engineering, minor in mathematics, artificial intelligence. Okay. NYPD has arrived in Pennsylvania. There's some video going on where it was going live where they showed him getting, or no, they didn't show him. They were waiting on him to get transferred out of that location. Okay, JD's, hey, what's up, brother? No, we had them on him. What did he have on him? Oh, you saying he had his clothes on him? Maybe like in a backpack? Okay, that's good to know. Right now, we're going to switch over from this, and I'm going to pull up the. I'm going to pull up the briefing from the NYPD. So let me get that up here. I appreciate y'all jumping in so we can talk about this. This is crazy. I would say what's even crazier. I don't know if it's even crazier, but what was really weird to me was the number of people that were celebrating this. Now, I know our world is broken. Y'all already know, especially those of us who know Christ. We understand that our world is very fallen. And I know, and I've said this in other videos, and it's funny. I was making a video today, real quick. I was shooting a video just to offer an update on this entire situation. And then once I get done, and after I shot a few videos, I go to sit down, and come to find out, I look on my phone, dude was already caught. It's like, wow, things fly. But as I said earlier, just a few moments ago, I was not surprised. Dude left a trail that anybody could really follow. Anybody who had even the low level of investigation training, I think, could have figured out who this guy was. Too many cameras, his face, in like I said, in 2021, his face being, and that was the top story. That was the top story over the last 5 days or so. And his face being splattered all over the place. Again, the DNA he left on the coffee cup. Man, I tell you, that coffee addiction will get you. It'll get you every time. But let's check out this. Let's check out this press conference. Let me know if you're having any issues, if you're hearing any echoes or anything like that, so I can fix it. But let's give it a whirl.
By our chief of detectives and the police commissioner and chief of department, because we have a strong person of interest in the shooting that shook our city last week. CEO Brian Thompson of UnitedHealthCare was the victim of a senseless act of violence. Our officers have been working around the clock. Many of them did not go home to pursue this individual. It was crucial that we were able to remove him off the streets of America, and we were going to seek him out no matter where he was at the time. Mm-hmm. And so this is a strong person of interest. The police commissioner and chief of detectives will go over where we are right now in the investigation. He matches the description of the identification we've been looking for. He's also in possession of several items that we believe will connect him to this incident. How did we do it? Good old-fashioned police work. The chief of detectives and the police commissioner made the decision to release as much of a photo that we had at the time. We sent it across the country, and someone, a McDonald's employee, did something we ask every American to do. If you see something, say something, but most importantly, do something. And they did. And because of that, we believe we have a strong person of interest to deal with this case. I want to now turn it over to the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthCare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world, and of course, the strong relationships we have with our local law enforcement partners on every level. Local, state, and federal.
I know NYPD is pretty good, but in Metro, Las Vegas Metro ain't perfect, but maybe I'm a little biased, but we got a pretty good police department here. I'm just saying.
All serve the same public safety mission. And this case, which captured the attention of an entire nation, is another example of how connected we are and how important it is to work together, share information, and pursue every lead. For just over 5 days, our NYPD investigators combed through thousands of hours of video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and processed every bit of forensic evidence, DNA, fingerprints, IP addresses, and so much more to tighten the net. We deployed drones, canine units, and scuba divers. We leveraged the domain awareness system, Argus cameras, and conducted aviation canvasses. And our detectives also went door to door, interviewing potential witnesses and doing the good old-fashioned police work that our investigators are famous for.
Like I said, y'all, when it comes down to just boots on the ground, police officers interacting with the community. Now, I'm sure it was a combination of all of these factors, but there's nothing like that. Just doing a knock and talk, as we used to call it. Just going door to door knocking, talking to people. Did you hear something? Did you see something? Did you see it? Anybody who matched this description? You would be surprised with the level of intel that you can gather just by being a halfway decent communicator. And but like I said before, there are too many ways for you to be monitored and tracked in our current society. It's kind of scary to some degree, but as long as you ain't committing any crimes, you should be good to go. And as long as our government doesn't get any more rogue than it already is, you should be good to go. But at the same time, it could be extremely helpful and beneficial when they're trying to track down the bad guy.
This combination of old school detective work and new age technology is what led to this result today. And we must also acknowledge the instrumental role the media and the public played in this case. The images that we shared with the public were spread far and wide, and the tips we received led to the recovery of crucial evidence. We should never underestimate the power of the public to be our eyes and our ears in these investigations. This is the third time in 3 weeks that a member of the public has seen something and said something and done something that led to a high-profile arrest. The triple stabbing homicide in Manhattan, the gunpoint robberies in Queens during which an NYPD officer was shot, and now this. Now, the case will continue through the criminal justice process. And while we are proud of today's accomplishment, we must, of course, remember that a family is in mourning. I want to again extend my sympathies to Brian's family, his coworkers, and all who knew him. Finally, I want to thank the women and men of the NYPD, especially our Detective Bureau personnel, with a strong assist from our intelligence analysts. We also thank the SAC of the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division, Leslie Rodriguez-Bekshies. And I want to commend the staff of the Manhattan DA's office, and especially DA Alvin Bragg. He has been working with us 24/7 on this case, and I am incredibly grateful for his partnership.
It's about time you focused on some real crime, but that's just a little of my commentary.
I'll now pass it along to our great Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny, who will provide additional information. Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. As the Commissioner stated earlier, a male was taken into custody today in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning. He has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a male, 26 years old. He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York. Members of the NYPD Detective Bureau are currently traveling.
Real quick, y'all, let me know what you think. What does it take for someone to be, because they speak on in his manifesto and in his social media posts that he was a pretty radical anti-capitalist. What do you think, what does it take for somebody to be pushed to the point to where they feel as if they have to take someone's life? Now, I'm not asking anybody to say that, I'm not saying that it was a good thing by any stretch. I don't want anybody to even misconstrue what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to do a deep dive here of mindset. Like, what would drive somebody to do something like that? Or at least him in this situation. I think that Ivy League background, that education, they've become radical indoctrination centers, as I said earlier. But do you think that he may have had a family member or him personally might have been involved in situations like this where they couldn't get the insurance coverage that they felt they needed? Let me know what you think. Comment down below.
To Pennsylvania with members of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to interview this subject. This case was brought to a successful conclusion based on the coordinated effort between numerous NYPD units, including the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, our federal partners at the FBI and District Attorney's Office, and of course, members of the Altoona Police Department in Pennsylvania. On Thursday, one day after this crime was committed, the NYPD released a photo of the shooter in this case. This picture was obtained by the NYPD during one of their extensive video canvasses. We took that photograph and we asked for the public's help in identifying this subject, and the public responded. Hundreds of tips began to pour into our hotline. Each tip was investigated thoroughly, and we began to release additional photographs as they came into our possession. The NYPD provided these photos to numerous media outlets. Local, national, and international outlets released the photo via television, print, social media, and online content. Luckily, a citizen in Pennsylvania recognized our subject and called local law enforcement. Members of the Altoona Police Department responded to the call, and based on their investigation, they notified the NYPD. This investigation is still active and ongoing. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Shooting first, and then we'll. Mark?
I had a couple questions about the document that he was found in possession with. Can you go a little bit more in depth about those motivations that you mentioned? Was that CEO specifically named in that document? Was there anything more about him wanting to go after others? And also in that document, was there any indication that explains us how the level of detail that he went into killing him? Like, is there anything?
Like I said, that document is currently in the possession of the Altoona Police Department as part of their investigation. But just from briefly speaking with them, we don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document, but it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
Over here, sir.
MJ?
Chief, was the suspect wearing a mask at the time he was spotted in the McDonald's? And also, criminal cases often have a linchpin. Can you point to a single linchpin that helped crack this case?
There's numerous linchpins in this case, in the fact that we've recovered an enormous amount of forensic evidence, an enormous amount of video, and once again, with your help and the public's help. So I really couldn't put it on one thing, but if I had to, it would be the release of that photograph from the media.
Dean?
You said he had a passport on him. Do you believe he was trying to flee the country? And also, are you still looking for any evidence in Central Park in regards to the bike?
We had divers in the water yesterday that came up negative results. The passport, we don't believe that he was planning on doing any traveling at this time. We don't think at this point in our investigation, we don't think he was trying to flee the country.
Yeah, once again, once that photo came out, it was a wrap. You can kind of come up with an idea who he was with his eyes, if you knew him, if you were a family member or a friend, and you kind of understood his mentality. You can put the police can put the pieces together and figure out if that individual was a potential suspect or possible suspect or not. But once his face was shown at that Starbucks, I'm telling y'all, that coffee gets people all the time. But once his face got shown, it was done. It was a ticking clock. It was an hourglass just dwindling down to nothing, because eventually he was going to get caught.
The person at the McDonald's, were they buying food? What were they doing at that exact moment?
He was an employee at the McDonald's.
Right. But what was the suspect doing?
He was sitting there eating.
Okay.
Will the suspect be
Hey,
brought
pause
back
that
to
real
New York
quick.
and charged?
So the individual who saw him was a customer. And no, the individual that saw him worked there. And Luigi here was just hanging out. Honestly, policing isn't really hard when you think about it, because suspects are often pretty dumb. It's rare when you come across somebody that really knows the game and is really trying to work around it. That's a rare occasion.
Here and when?
We're going to have to work that out with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He's going to be facing gun charges there. And at some point, we'll work out through extradition to bring him back to New York to face charges here, working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Hi, Anita from the New York Post. I was just hoping to get more details on the capture itself. Did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to cops? And we've also reported that he published online anti-health care industry rantings. Can you share with us some of the services that he posted on?
We're still working through his social media. We're going to do a complete scrub of that. Preliminarily, like I said, he seems that he has some ill will toward corporate America, but that will all come out as part of our investigation. We're not done here. We're still going to be putting this together. We're still going to be working very hard to bring this to a successful conclusion.
The capture itself, did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to police?
I don't have that information.
Oh, sorry. Can you elaborate on how he got there, the path he took from Port Authority and on the George Washington Bridge to Altoona, PA? Same
thing. This just happened this morning. We'll be backtracking his steps from New York to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
I was going to ask if we knew anything, if he took a bus to Philadelphia first and then somehow got to Altoona. But
We're still working on that. We're still working through that.
Britain. Is there any indication that anybody else was helping him from the inside, as far as tracking the CEO's movements?
Well, once again, we're still working this investigation very hard. It's not at its conclusion yet. That could come out during our investigation, but as of right now, we have no indication that took place.
Just a thought, when it comes down to whether because I saw JD, I think you mentioned it in there, him being maybe paid, like a paid hit or something like that. Now, anything's possible, and I'm not trying to act like I have all the answers. I'm learning as we watch this, just like the rest of some of y'all. But considering he had a manifesto and he was so radical in his beliefs, it sounds more like somebody who just had an agenda and was radicalized and decided to take action. But of course, we'll find out as time goes on. And don't worry, y'all. I'm going to go through the chat, and so I can respond to you guys' chats. I really appreciate it. And if you're really appreciating this, make sure you give me a thumbs up so I can spread, so my content can get spread a little bit better across YouTube and Facebook and other outlets. I would really appreciate it.
Chief, did he have any weapons or anything like that with him when he was arrested?
He was in possession of a ghost gun that had the capability of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor.
Can you get into a little bit about the technical aspects of the investigation? I know you deployed an unprecedented amount of technology. You also activated the Sentry program through Intel. Can you talk about how that is going to play into actually building the case as far as cell phone and all of the other technical aspects of what you've done?
In this case, it really came down to technology was the use of drones in Central Park, and really comes down to the video canvas that we did. We used every source of video that we could collect, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours from hundreds of sources, and that helped bring this to where we are right now.
The gun is it believed to be the gun he used in the shooting? And there was some talk that it was a veterinarian type gun. Is that accurate?
No, as of right now, the information we're getting from Altoona is that the gun appears to be a ghost gun, may have been made on a 3D printer. The capability of firing a 9mm round, obviously that will come out during our ballistics testing.
Oliver?
Yeah, Oliver Barnes from the Financial Times. Do you have any indication like how long this handwritten, is it a handwritten manifesto that you found on the suspect? And then also whether or not he put it online at all?
Don't know if it's online. As of right now, it's a handwritten 3-page document.
Chief, does he have ties to that area, and was he someone who knew by name before his arrest?
We believe he may have attended college in Pennsylvania, but like I said earlier, he has ties to Maryland and California and Hawaii.
You knew him by name before today. Was his name on your radar?
Excuse me?
Was his name on your radar? Was he someone who you had been looking into before his arrest?
No, we did not have his name prior to today.
Does he have any prior arrests? I know there were none for New York City, but is there any prior arrests anywhere else in the country?
We have not come across any arrests in the country.
Chief, hi, how are you? On two things. On the ghost gun, is it something you're going to be looking into to see if he made it himself and can he make that himself? Or would he have to buy the gun the way it was?
No, but once again, that'll be part of our investigation as we follow up.
I mean, obviously he's going to face murder charges, but is there any chance that he could face any other charges because he was targeting the CEO and because of his writings and other things that we're now finding on him? Federal charges or
that determination will be made by Alvin Bragg.
Yes, what connections does he have in Pennsylvania that you know of, and are they in Altoona specifically?
We believe he attended college in Pennsylvania.
Does he know anybody in Pennsylvania?
Wouldn't be able to tell you that.
All right, we're gonna take one more question from shooting Marla, and then we're gonna go.
You talk about the manifesto having said things against corporations, but specifically UnitedHealthCare, and do you believe that Mangione acted alone?
We believe at this point, our investigation is leaning toward he was acting alone. So, like I stated earlier, we're still working through the investigation. We're not stopping today. And as far as the manifesto, like I said, I don't have the complete details of that. It's in the possession of the Altoona Police Department.
We're gonna shift to off
Yep. Good job, Chief. Commissioner, Chief Mangione.
I'm sure Mayor Adams is glad that there's something going on that kind of draws the attention away from all the nonsense he's been involved in lately, with the investigations of him receiving donations from foreign donations and the entire catastrophe with the illegals coming into New York, him flip-flopping on that, being, hey, we are a sanctuary city, come on in. But then when they started busting him in there, next you know, he's crying and complaining that all these illegals coming in are going to destroy New York City. I bet he wished he kept his mouth shut, because had he went along with this, I don't think he would have been investigated personally. And I'm talking about the whole sanctuary city thing for New York. But he's probably kind of glad that there's something drawing the attention away from him for at least a couple of days anyway. I'm sure they're going to talk about guns or something like that because they reference the 3D gun.
Again, great job by the New York City Police Department. Certain aspects of this investigation and the crime itself is something that we have been zeroing in on. Ghost guns. We have really talked about this since the beginning of the administration. They could be made on a 3D printer, and they are extremely dangerous, and we must do more on the federal level too.
Okay, I want to confess my ignorance here. How does that whole ghost gun thing work? I just don't know. I've heard about it. 3D printers. Are these literally guns created on a printer? If you know, put it in the chat or in the comments, because honestly, I'm pretty ignorant on it. I did a little reading on it a few years ago, but just kind of skimmed over it. But if you know more about ghost guns, fill me in so I can be a little more knowledgeable before I start speaking on it.
To clap down on the availability of ghost guns. And it just really leads into just the top headers of what we did last week and what we're doing this week. This week is all about public safety. Public safety, I've stated over and over again, is a prerequisite to our prosperity, and we're going to continue to make this
All
city.
right, well, you got news off the top there. It happened earlier this morning there in Altoona, PA. Members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. He is still being labeled a strong person of interest in what was an incredibly brazen, targeted murder of Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthCare. Police did give details on this 3-page manifesto, a document they said spoke to the motivation and mindset of this killer, of this suspect at this point, or a strong person of interest. Although, John, when the details are provided, almost everything that that he had on him in that McDonald's at the time would point to this being the killer of that CEO.
All right. So let's move on over here. I want to share with you just some of the other details I've come across with this guy as far as his motivations. All right, let me share the screen. Once again, I've got over 100 of y'all in here, so I definitely appreciate y'all jumping in. Again, if you're appreciating the conversation, the discussion, make sure you give me a thumbs up, a like, and wherever you're watching me, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X. Let me share the screen here. We're going to go over some of the information pulled up from X, people who were looking into even something as simple as his Goodreads page. So you can really get into the mindset of what somebody thinks and who they are by looking at the books that they read. Because I can guarantee you that people would be able to get a good idea of who I am and what I believe if you went that route. So here we go. Let's pull this up. Let me know if you can see it, if it comes up well. All right. Perfect. Let's see here. All right. We have Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. I've heard of that book, but I'm not very familiar with it. I can't make out this first one here, but it looks like a little gingerbread man. I don't know. Predictably Irrational. The 4-Hour Work Week. I'm familiar with that book. I have a little trouble making out some of these other books. Atomic Habits, I actually have that book. It's actually pretty good as far as this kind of goal setting and whatnot. He's got Elon Musk. Watch somebody politicize this thing, because you got a book with Elon Musk on it. Watch them try to make a connection politically. You know it's going to happen. It always does. It's just a matter of time. People try to politicize everything. The ape that understood the universe. So it's evolution is perhaps bigger, leaner, stronger. Just a book about fitness primarily. Okay, here's a quote that he has from his Goodreads section. America is the wealthiest nation on earth, but its people mainly poor, and poor Americans are urged to hate themselves. To quote the American humorist Ken Hubbard, "It ain't no disgrace to be poor, but it might as well be," unquote. It is in fact a crime for an American to be poor, even though America is a nation of poor. Every other nation has folk traditions of men who are poor but extremely wise and virtuous, and therefore more estimable than anyone with power and gold. No such tales are told by the American poor. They mock themselves and glorify their betters. The meanest eating or drinking establishment owned by a man who is himself poor is very likely to have a sign on its wall asking this cruel question, quote, "If you're so smart, why ain't you rich?" unquote. There will also be an American flag no larger than a child's hand, glued to a lollipop stick and flying from the cash register. Americans, like human beings everywhere, believe many things that are obviously untrue. Their most destructive, let's see if it keeps going here. Nope, that's it. He also had Atlas Shrugged in there, American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of Robert Oppenheimer, Infinite Jest, I'm not familiar with that book, The Great Conversations, Pre-Socrates through Descartes, a lot of philosophy there. Our Final Hour, a scientist warning how terror, error, and the environmental disaster threatens humankind's future in this century. That's very interesting right there. Again, I believe, and of course, this is an uneducated guess or slightly educated guess, is based on the little bit of information that I've heard, that radicalization is a real thing. That last book right there, Our Final Hour, a scientist's approach, a scientist warning how terror, error, and environmental disasters threaten humankind, and him being very anti-capitalism, very odd. Let me see if we have anything else. The Lorax, that's interesting. Is there something subliminal there that I don't know? His Twitter banner starts to paint a picture. Back mechanics, that healthcare related thing. Okay, I guess Goodreads is taking it down, or yeah, they probably might have taken his book down. Okay, if all these are real, now I'm assuming that these are real, but it seems like there's a lot of inconsistencies there, or he just likes to read and be up to snuff on what's going on. 1984, I read that in the 6th grade, and that book still stays with me after all these years. I think I've read that already. All right, scrolling through. Yeah, I think these are just regular. Okay. All right. But let me know what you guys think. I mean, this is really, all this stuff here, just the entire situation, just really strange. The whole breakdown, how he went about doing what he did. One more X page here I want to bring up. Andy No. If you're not familiar with Andy No, by the way, he is a independent journalist. He does a lot of investigations on Antifa and other pretty radical extremist groups. He's got some really good stuff out there. So if you want an understanding of what goes on in a lot of parts of our country that the mainstream media outlets typically don't cover, his page, his channel is a very good place to start. Andy No, NGO is his name. All right, he talks about the arrest here. And he's also on his page here. I'm assuming this is an X post. Horror vacui, nature abhors a vacuum. Relevant read. Christianity's decline has unleashed terrible new gods. That's a pretty pretty good quote there. New atheism assumed that as people abandoned Christianity, they would embrace a sort of enlightened, secular position. The death of Christian Scotland showed that this was wrong. Faith there has been replaced by derangement, and the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment, which rose out of Christian principles, now worships intolerant new gods. Wow. Wow. Richard Dawkins, when he disproved God, and within 2 decades, his side is worshipped at the DEI shrine, using made-up pronouns like religious mantras and firing professors for saying men can't get pregnant. And he reposted that. Wow. I mean, look at the irony. I don't know if that's even the right word, but he talks about, where did he say? Faith has been replaced by derangement and the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment. Wow. And then he goes out doing what he did. That's pretty wild. Okay. All right, let's see if there's anything else. No, that's about it. That's about it. But what do you got? What are your thoughts on this so far, y'all? Pretty crazy. Let me make my fill in that. There we go. All right, we're going to go through some of your comments in the chat. Once again, I appreciate all y'all being in here and interacting. What's up, Stevie? Good to see you. I think I pulled this one up. Most book smart people don't have a lot of common sense. Man, I found that to be pretty accurate. For those of y'all who follow me on either Instagram or Facebook, I posted a video, a discussion between Candace Owens and Nick Cannon talking about the whole transgender issue. And on Instagram, I had some of the weirdest comments. I had people getting on there and literally saying that, and regardless of how you feel about Candace Owens, I think that she can often make some really sound arguments when she's discussing a specific issue. And somebody actually commented on there, she doesn't have a right to speak on these things because she's uneducated, because she dropped out of college. And I thought that was the most idiotic thing one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard. Since when does having a college degree equate to you being intelligent? I've known too many people throughout history who never went to school, and throughout my lifetime who were incredibly bright and knowledgeable and intelligent. I didn't graduate college. I don't think I'm an idiot. I'm not the smartest dude in the room, but I read, and I probably read a book every 2 weeks. And I spend about 2 hours a day, an hour and a half to 2 hours a day reading on most good days. I'm not trying to say that to impress anybody, but you can gain knowledge from so many other sources. That's my primary argument I'm making. And if you want to discount somebody because they haven't went to college, went to the university, then you're giving up a ton of wisdom. And let me make this point again. Just because you go to college doesn't mean that you have common sense. My thoughts are oftentimes, not in every situation, clearly, but especially in this 2024, this modern era, indoctrination is real, y'all. It is very, very real. And so those of you who are out there who are parents, if you're going to send your kids off to university, especially if you're raising up kids who you want to live godly lives, you better prepare them. You better prepare them in apologetics, and because you could be sending them off to a situation where they're going to get their faith shipwrecked, because there's some professors whose very job in their own mind is to do just that. So just be very careful, y'all. Sorry, I got on my little soapbox there. Oh, we already talked about that. JD having the clothing in his bag or some on his person. Yeah, LaTanya, I'm good. this was too good of a topic. I've been trying to make content again because I slacked off for like a year, but I just have a passion for. I love to talk. First of all, any of y'all that know me know I have no issue running my mouth. But I'm like, why not get on and discuss these issues? Because there's so many. We are living in such a wild and crazy time in American history. And there's so many people out there that'll believe anything that's put in front of them. And I just want to be a voice. I strive to be a voice of reason. And keep me in prayer, y'all, because I just want to keep pushing forward. I don't want to get distracted, and because it's a lot of tedious work. I'm a solo content creator, so I do every aspect. As much as making videos on social media looks simple, and some of them can be, but when you have to do the editing, the filming, and the uploading, and making the proper title for the video to get people's attention, making the proper tag for the video to get people's attention, thumbnail, everything, that's some tedious and hard work. So sometimes I lose motivation, and then I don't get paid from doing this because my audience isn't that big. But if you appreciate content like this, make sure you give me a follow wherever you're watching this, whether it's Facebook or on YouTube. Give me a follow so I can get more traction and more people can see what I'm doing. All right, Steve, I feel bad for the victim's family. And that's one, yeah, I agree, bro. And that's one aspect of this whole thing that's oftentimes been overlooked. You have people on different sides. Some people out there celebrating this man's murder, which is utterly insane to me. I'm sure I'll probably see something like that in the comments. Hopefully not, but probably a good chance. But then you also have people who, on the other side, more reasonable people who are like, man, this whole thing was just unnecessary and terrible. But I think the family has been forgotten, not by most people, but to some degree, because everybody's trying to figure out. I know me personally, just really focus on who did it and why and what his motivation was. And I think I've kind of felt guilty of that by not focusing and praying for the family members because they're suffering right now. Let me see here. JD, one of my former brothers out there in Metro on patrol. What I wouldn't do to have been a detective sitting with this kid. I cannot wait to see his manifesto. I'm with you, bro. That I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting. But again, it's going to be 3 pages, and this was so publicized. I'm sure it'll be out there before you know it. But it's been pretty cool involved in the investigation and in the arrest. Did you see where there were shots fired at a church in Suffolk, Virginia? Nah, Stevie, I haven't heard about that. When did that take place, man? Was that like how recent was that? LVMPD probably has the best training nationwide, in my humble opinion. Yeah, we're not biased at all, bro. We're not biased at all. But we have people coming from all over the country, even international law enforcement outlets coming to train with Metro. I say we, but yeah, I'm retired. We're both retired. So do you ever miss being on the force? You know what, bro? For the most part, no, because I enjoy being retired and I'm doing pretty decently financially. So it's not a struggle or anything like that. But when I see something like this go down, or I have one of my buddies who's still out there call me and tell me the details of them being on a hot call. When we say hot calls, it's like something like a chase or a robbery or foot pursuit. That's something very dynamic that's happening right now. And when I see things like that go down, man, I miss it. I'm not going to lie to you, but that's very rare. I would say 95% of the time I'm good being retired, but there are aspects of the job that I absolutely loved. I hated doing the paperwork and all this kind of stuff, but when it came down to a bank robbery call or a foot pursuit or a regular pursuit or just officers just throwing them hands every now and then, I love that. That's why I was trying to get on SWAT before I end up being on light duty my last couple of years on the force. But before that, I was trying to get into SWAT because I was like, man, that's the coolest job you could possibly have. You kick indoors, you train, you do all the dynamic stuff you do with barricades, suspects, hostage rescues and situations, and minimal paperwork. I was like, that's my job. That was gonna be my jam. But the Lord had different plans for me, and in the long term, it ended up being a blessing in disguise. Basically, she's saying that they canvas and utilize their version of the fusion watch, pretty much. No conscience. When you're probably referencing when I asked what could motivate somebody to do this, and I agree, man. Like, like I said, it's just really odd how somebody can be just motivated to take someone's life. And I'm assuming, because you got to wonder in the chain of the decision makers, excuse me, when it comes to individuals who may feel as if they're being mistreated by their insurance companies. I'm willing to gauge that he doesn't have any direct ties. I think, and again, wild guess, but because he went after somebody so high up in the ranks, I'm sure he's a decision maker when it comes down to the entire UnitedHealthCare insurance company. But you would think that you would go after somebody, some individual, unless he knows more than I do when it comes down to, unless there was a situation that popped up where he was impacted based on a decision that the CEO made. It seemed like you would be more focused, and I'm not trying to give any criminal any advice, but it seemed like you would be more focused on an individual who may have harmed you by their direct choice. So my initial thought was that he did what he did based on being harmed, and that could still be 100% accurate. But it could easily be a family member, a friend, or maybe he just hated the system and he thought that he would just make an example out of this man. And a corrupt heart. Amen, brother. Amen. If this wasn't a paid murder, I believe just based on what has been released so far, that the motive is going to be related to a family member passing. And you could be right, brother. We'll soon see. It could be that he knew someone directly, or like I said just a moment ago, it could be that there was just the system in general and he saw this guy. But it's really weird that he picked out this guy on this day. Really strange. I'm really interested in finding out his mindset. There's something weird but fascinating about the criminal mind that drives people to do some of the things that they do. If he's convicted, he's getting life. No doubt about that. Or you know what? I think because it was so publicized, he should get a life sentence, I believe. But the criminal justice system is really weird, especially in that ultra progressive and liberal New York. Not trying to make everything political, y'all, but that's just how it is. This is the city that radically reduced the penalties for felony offense and enacted that whole no bail policy, which dramatically drove up the crime rate. Dramatically drove up the crime rate in New York City. Ever since they did all that nonsense. And Alvin Bragg, that's why one of the reasons why he nauseates me is because his decision-making is a mess. The poor choices he's made. He spent all this time going after Donald Trump when you had all these illegals coming into his city, shooting the crime rate up. There were statements being made by NYPD that in certain cities or certain locations that the crime, 75% of the crime was being committed by illegal migrants. So it's like, what are you going to, and then he's spending all his time going after Donald Trump over charges that even former governor Andrew Cuomo said when he was the DA, he said crimes like this were typically tossed aside and they were never tried. So dude's motivations were just all messed up. But who knows? So who knows? But it could be the fact that this thing got so publicized that he might look at it a little differently and make an example out of this guy. But we'll soon see. All right. What up, Antoine? I'm listening to this for the first time. Been busy, so you're my media right now. Hey, I'm glad I can help you, brother. All right. Oh, dang. I just went by a whole bunch of y'all. Sorry about that. A lot of comments here, so forgive me. But again, y'all, if you're appreciating this, make sure you give me a thumbs up, give me a like. I appreciate it. All right, here we go. Wow, okay, this sounds extremely personal with the company. I'm back with my original thought of it had something to do with a family member who passed or is terminally ill. Thinking a parent, grandparent, female companion. Anything's possible, bro. As soon as I find something out, I'll make sure I'll put it out there to y'all on one of my social media sites. But try to put more videos out, so I'll probably make a video about it. By company United Health, yeah. I picture him standing in the door in the car. Is that an Uber? I don't know. Uber, taxi, possibly. I think some of y'all already commented on that. You guys are interacting. Appreciate you putting that information in there, JD, about the ghost guns and whatnot. I will definitely look into that. Definitely. Let me see if I can. Hopefully, I don't lose that. Neometrics Tech. Okay. You're going to look at a video of how ghost guns are made. Yeah, I think I've seen something where they're actually being printed out in a machine. And I was like, that's the weirdest thing in the world. How can something like that actually operate? It just blew my mind. You ain't alone, Antoine. I bet he picked Elon Musk's book to throw everyone off. Could be. Or maybe he was trying to get into the mind, him being, because I'll look at it like this. I like to read books from people with opposing worldviews. I like to read books, or at the very least read articles from people who have opposing worldviews, just so I can strengthen my arguments. That's what I like to do. So maybe he looked at the ultimate capitalist, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, and thought, let me try to get into this guy's mind. Who knows? Maybe he was wanting to target Elon. The scare term ghost gun is used by anti-2A crowd for any homemade gun for any reason. It does not have a serial number, but it's totally legal as long as you do not sell the gun you made. I appreciate that, man, because I definitely didn't know much about them at all. But I'm even more intrigued, though, to read up on it. Yeah, man, it's been everywhere, man, the last few days. It was so brazen, him just gunning old boy down on the streets was just crazy to me. And the fact that it was almost like a Jason Bourne hit when I first saw it. He just comes across the street and waiting for the guy, and you have this high-level CEO of a insurance company, and he just lets the guy pass him by. He's got his face all covered up, head covered up, and he just hits him with a gun with a suppressor. But now we're learning that the weapon he used was most likely, well, no, I'm hearing different things. They said he had a ghost gun on him, or they believe that the ghost gun was a gun that he used in the assassination. If they mentioned it, I didn't catch it or I forgot it. But I did a video. I was working on a video earlier today. It's kind of irrelevant now that they caught him. But they said that it looked like one of them guns that you use to kill if you have a wounded animal or something like that on the farm, like your horse breaks his leg. It's like it's like a gun with a suppressor on it, and it doesn't automatically reload or feed another round in the chamber just by pulling the trigger. You have to rack it back to shoot, and it shoots out 9mm rounds. And because if you see him in the video, he's constantly re-racking and shooting, re-racking and shooting. And something like that might be easier to get than a full-fledged handgun. So he probably was trying to cover his tracks. But again, if it's a 3D gun, everything I'm saying is irrelevant. But there was a CNN news clip where they talked about that, and it looked similar to what he actually was using or had used. You should do a video on Christian nationalism. It's a serious issue. I've been hearing a lot of talk about it. One of my brothers what's Alton's last name? Let me look up something real quick, y'all. I'm looking at one. I was watching a video last night from a brother I follow on YouTube. He and I actually made some content together before, and he was talking about the whole Christian nationalism thing. Hold on, let me switch to my other YouTube channel. And he was talking about it, and he was talking about these people who are now, oftentimes the media will make something out to be, a bigger deal than it really is. But when I heard about when I watched last night, it was disturbing to me. Some people are basically trying to, or at least this is what I heard from the news outlet and watching my man's content last night, that there's some people that literally want to separate from society and start like a Christian community. And there was even talk that some people were saying that because they want to keep the white Christians pure, and you're heading into some foolish ground right there. Like that's just insane. And somebody even stated, and like again, I didn't confirm this, but even stated that Pastor Doug Wilson made the comment that he would discourage a white person, a biracial couple, from getting together. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I heard last night. But if that's true, for any Christian, any follower of Jesus to make a statement like that, if you're dealing with people who are unequally yoked, like a non-believer with a believer, now that's a different situation. But if you're the main motivation, Alton Johnson, my man Alton Johnson's, let me click on this just to show y'all real quick. And I'll get back to the main topic. Forgive me there, y'all. I just want to show you my man. He's making some really good content. I just want to show you his page real quick. You see right here, hold on, let me make sure y'all can see that. Alton Johnson, the top one here, exposing racist ideologies within Christian nationalism. Because no Christian should be getting into this whole concept of not getting involved with somebody simply because of their skin color. There's nothing biblical about that whatsoever. Zero. And if you got people running around there preaching that kind of nonsense, because you hear that kind of talk a lot of times, I mean, just throughout the unfortunate history of our nation, but you hear a lot of that kind of stuff in more modern times by some of these like BHI, Black Hebrew Israelite groups, and like dudes like Umar Johnson, people like that who are radicals who want to have like black separatists and whatnot. And you got white separatists, no doubt about it, your skinheads and your Klansmen and whatnot. But Klansmen, I mean, you really don't hear too much about them. Skinheads are a bit more prevalent and whatnot, neo-Nazi types. And so you definitely have people out there who preach a lot of that foolishness. But for anybody who professes to be a follower of Jesus, regarding two believers, that's just ridiculous. All right. I saw the shots fired in church topic on the news today. I caught it at the end, so I have to look more into it. I definitely will. I did see that last week, and it really, as far as I know, it really didn't seem like it was a big story. But I saw that there was a shooting, I believe it was in Northern California at a Seventh-day Adventist school, and the dude and two kids were shot. I don't think anyone died. But don't quote me on that. But I did see where somebody shot up a school because of the Palestine-Israel conflict, and he was blaming the Christian church for a lot of conflict. Hey, sweetie, that's my baby girl right there. Thank you, honey. You know your dad's trying over here. Stephen, hey, yeah, I already talked about that. Yeah, but my man put out some good stuff last night. You were in the chat last night. Yeah, that was a good content last night. Good show. Yeah, y'all, this whole situation here was nuts. I'm gonna, you know what? Let me check out one more thing. Let me see if there's anything currently going on, because there was a video that I was peeping out where they were getting ready to show Luigi exiting from the jail, it looks like, or the police station in Pennsylvania. Okay, here's the video. It says it's live. All right, looks like it's going on right now. Let me back it up a bit. Share it with y'all while we're all here. Again, I appreciate everybody jumping in and joining me. If you're appreciating the conversation, give me a like. Okay, let me make it a little bigger. I don't know what they're going in there for. Let me back it up a little. This is all. I think I saw.
Oh, okay. I just got the guy walking in. I'm gonna come break down and come inside and see if I can do the press conference now. I'm gonna come break down and come inside and see if I can do the press conference now. Brother, back up.
Okay, here we go.
Inside and see if I can do the press conference now.
I think. This thing's acting weird on me, y'all. I'm trying to find it because it looks like I see him walking in.
Hey, he just walked in the courthouse.
There we go. There he is right there. They said walking into the courthouse. So I don't know if they have like a night court thing or something like that where they get an arraignment overnight or something like that. Pretty crazy. That's about it. Anyway. Well, y'all, I appreciate y'all jumping aboard and listening while we have this conversation. Again, if you enjoy or appreciate content like this, make sure you like and subscribe and give me a follow. I'll be keeping y'all updated to the best of my ability as we learn more as time goes on. Again, you guys have been very gracious to me, following me and listening as I give my opinion and my thoughts. I really appreciate seeing all 160 of y'all being here. And once again, we'll give it a wraps. Check out some of my other content on my pages. I've been putting out more and more. I got about 2 more videos coming out this week. and I've got 2 more videos I need to edit. So you'll see some more stuff here very shortly. But as always, y'all, in the meantime, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. See you in the next video.